Former President Thabo Mbeki says that the reason for ANC downfall and disintegration is not because of their bad and terrible decisions. It's not because of corruption. It's not because of moral decay. It's not because of the socialistic ideals which cannot work in human life, but simply because of apartheid. And apartheid agents are to blame for the disintegration of the ANC. And like you guys well know, the ANC has been predominantly the ruling party for the past over 31 odd years or so. So very interesting that, again, we are playing the blame game over here. We've got elections coming up next year. And it's just very interesting to, again, see the apartheid narrative come into play. Question, again, is when does the apartheid legacy actually end? Are we going to keep on referring back to it? Are we not going to move forward? Are we not going to tell young people that this country is a phenomenal and great country, that if you would make wise, godly, prudent, discerning decisions, that you can make something great of your life in this beautiful nation? Or are we just going to continue to just be absolutely apartheid obsessed and worship apartheid and worship what apartheid has ultimately done? Now, I'm not saying that what happened during apartheid was not right. However, what I am saying is that by us referring back and driving in reverse the entire time is not going to cause you to move forward effectively. The past should, again, be a place of reference and not residence. However, it's not the cause for things completely disintegrating within South Africa at present moment. So we're going to dive into that. And we've got one article here from newsday.co.za. With that being said, welcome to the William Moyses Show, where it's all about engaging with current events, exposing the lies, and ultimately equipping, empowering, educating, encouraging you, the young people of South Africa, to become everything that God has called you to be, so that we can rebuild the country from the ground up. Okay, because the ANC is an absolute disaster, and it's not because of apartheid. It's because of corruption. It's because of man's sinful nature. It's because of terrible decisions, a lack of competence, a lack of management skills, and it's a disaster. Absolute disaster. Okay, so we're going to dive into this. So according to newsday.co.za, again, don't forget to drop your comments down below, as well as to share this video far and wide with young people of this beautiful nation, as well as to ultimately subscribe. So please go ahead and do so. I would appreciate it greatly, and thank you for your subscribing. Okay, but anyway, newsday.co.za. In a recent podcast interview, Thabo Mbeki, our former president, like you guys well know, claimed that the ANC, or one of the former presidents, should I rather say, claimed that the ANC was not only challenged by external opposition, but that a systematic program by the apartheid regime was launched to infiltrate the organization and broader liberation movement before 1994. Okay, let's carry on here. He says that despite vetting mechanisms, some of these infiltrators managed to slip in and eventually hold key leadership positions even as late as 2007. Okay, let's carry on. Mbeki argues that the presence of these enemy agents helps explain why the first 15 years of democracy showed growth and hope, but the following years saw decline and failure. All right, so there's a lot more over there, but let me just dive into this, because I've got a lot to say about this, and I'm very excited for this video. Again, I want to reinforce the importance of personal responsibility. You and I are individual people, all right, that obviously make up a greater part of the community. But before we make up the greater part of a community, we are individual people that make decisions, that respond, and that treat people a certain type of way. And those decisions, those responses, those reactions, and the way we treat other people is influenced either by man's sinful nature, the flesh, or it's led by the Spirit of God. The one leads to liberty, unity, purpose, fulfillment, that's being led by the Spirit of God. And then the other one, the flesh, leads to disaster, destruction, and chaos. And again, to be clear, the further and further a society or an individual moves away from God and His way of ultimately doing life, the further and further that society or nation or individual moves away from freedom. because freedom works a particular type of way. So us as young people can never afford to move away from personal responsibility. You and I are responsible for our own decisions, our responses, and the way we ultimately treat other people, and we will be held accountable, all right, to the living God one day, based off of whether or not we received Jesus Christ or whether we rejected Jesus Christ, whether we received him and then executed on his ways, or whether we rejected him and went our own way. And there will be consequences for that, because again, we need to understand that God is the author of life, of liberty, of our rights, not the government, but God is the author of our rights as well as morality. Now, the ANC has completely moved away from God's way of doing things and have entered into a dark pit of socialism, communism, and Marxism over there that they are struggling to get out of. The reason they're struggling because there's something called pride, and pride comes before the fall. As a leader, anyone who's in a leadership position, as a leader, whether you are a husband, whether you are a wife, whether you are a dad, a mom, whether you have a leadership role within your workspace, at school, where in the community, wherever you might find yourself, at church, leadership will tell you, part of the leadership, it will literally tell you, proper leadership, is that when you have done the wrong thing, you need to admit you've done the wrong thing. Right? You need to say, you know what, my bad, I mispassed the ball over there, I'm going to do better next time. You can't be avoiding that accountability. You can't be using history as a means for you to escape from accountability and responsibility. All of us are accountable. All of us are responsible. So I want to ask you guys 3 questions here today, because again, we can't keep on blaming apartheid year after year, decade after decade. At some point, like, the legacy of apartheid must stop. And then I can almost feel we're going to have some social justice warriors over here hop on and say, oh, but you don't care about the people that suffered during apartheid. What about, the effects of apartheid? Champion, listen, what happened was absolutely evil and ungodly, and I've said that multiple times. However, you as an individual still make decisions. And we can't use the past and some past trauma that happened as an excuse as to why you and I are still treating each other with absolute disrespect, absolute dishonor, and we hate each other. That's on us. That's not on apartheid, that's on us as the next generation. So I've got 3 questions for you champs here today. Question number 1, do you have a personal relationship with God? And if you do, where is that personal relationship at? Right? Are you cold? Are you lukewarm? Or are you hot and on fire? And my hope is that you'd be hot and on fire for Jesus Christ, so you can make the impact, the difference you've been called to make. Because again, anybody can achieve greatness in this beautiful country, because greatness has got nothing to do with the color of your skin, but has to do with the decisions that you make. And God wants to help you in that decision-making process to make better, more wiser, more prudent, more discerning decisions based on what is good, based on what is eternal, based on what is wise, based on what is beautiful, so that your life can ultimately move forward. Now, you can either reject that and go your own way, but you're going to suffer hectic consequences because of that. All right, that's the first question. Do you have a personal relationship with God? And if so, where is that relationship at? Is it on fire, or are you lukewarm or cold? Where are you at? Number 2, are your current... Number 2 is also going to be twofold. Excuse the pun. 2v2. Number 2 is, do you know what your priorities are? In fact, it's going to be threefold. Do you know what your priorities are? Are they the right priorities? And are you keeping those priorities straight? Meaning, are you fulfilling on whatever those priorities are? And here's the priority of God: to love God with all of our heart, mind, soul, and strength. And number 2, to love our neighbor as we love ourselves. That doesn't look like we blaming everybody else. We take the plank rather out of our own eye first, so that we can help our brother get through what he needs to get through. Again, whatever you and I sow, we are going to end up reaping. If we sow to please the flesh, we will reap destruction. If we sow to please the Spirit, we will reap liberty, eternity, abundance, fulfillment, significance within our lives. Okay, so do you know what your priorities are? Are they the right priorities? As well as, are you keeping those priorities straight? Meaning, are you fulfilling on those priorities? Which leads us into question number 3, which is simply this. Do you know what you're based off of priorities, right? Because of those priorities, or from those priorities, you're going to draw something called responsibility. Are you busy fulfilling on your responsibilities? Are you busy fulfilling? Or are you busy slacking and using all of these woke ideas as an excuse for you not to rise up, for you not to do something great, for you not to build that business, for you not to step into that ministry where God can use you in a significant way. Why are you making excuses? Remember, pride makes excuses, humility makes adjustments. I'm going to say it again. Pride makes excuses, humility makes adjustments. That doesn't mean that what you are going through doesn't hurt or it's not painful. It just simply means, like, yo, listen, the mere fact that it came your way is proof that you can overcome it, because otherwise God would have never sent it your way in the first place or allowed it to happen. You can overcome it. You can do something great with your life. You can do something great for your family. You can do something great for this beautiful country of South Africa without being corrupt. Because remember, righteousness exalts a nation, but sin destroys a people. So let us come back to God's way of doing life. Let us come back to His will being executed on the earth, because He knows best. Closing statement here, that there is a God. You and I are not God. God loves us. Because of sin, because of our rebellion towards God, we became absolutely broken. Jesus Christ came to save us from our sin, to save us from our brokenness, and start the recreation process where you and I now are able to become the men and become the woman God has called us to be, where God is glorified, and that's ultimately for our good, for the country's good, for the continent's good, because this nation matters, which means your life ultimately matters. That's our time for today. Please go ahead and again, remember to subscribe, to like this video, drop your comments down below, and let's not be like the leaders we see today that are blaming everybody else. Let's take responsibility. It doesn't mean that other people don't do certain things that hurt us. However, right, let's take responsibility. Let's stop giving other people so much blooming power over our own lives. Let's have God be the ruler over our lives, so that we can step into purpose, step into ministry, step into destiny, and step into the divine plan that He has for us as individuals as well as a nation collectively. You see the pen doing its thing here. Thank you guys so much. Get in touch with us also at kingandme.co.za. Get activated today. Get empowered today. There are so many empowering products on the website that are meant for you, to empower you, to help you, to educate you, so you can actually live the life that God has called you to live. Thank you once again. Thanking ngiyabonga. And just know today, namhlanje, that your voice matters.